morning and welcome to Rising. As always, we have a great show for you today, and I'm joined back at the desk by Niall Stanage. Good morning, Niall.
Morning, Amber. Great to see you.
You too. Let's get right into it. Obviously, we are just a few days actually now out from the election, so we've got a lot to cover. 5 days specifically out from Election Day, and both candidates are hitting the swing states hard. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris will be in Arizona and Nevada. Trump rallied in Wisconsin yesterday, where he continued to slam Joe Biden's garbage comments. Let's watch.
250 million Americans are not garbage. This week, Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. No way. No way. And they actually mean it, even though, without question, my supporters are far higher quality than crooked Joe or lying Kamala. Higher quality.
If you're wondering why the former president is dressed in that vest, it's because he really wanted to drive his point home. Take a look.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
Of course, President Biden has since tried to clarify his comments, and Vice President Harris says she does not believe in criticizing people based upon who they vote for. Meanwhile, Harris was in Wisconsin yesterday, where she got some big endorsements. The actor and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger endorsed Harris, writing on X, quote, "Calling America a trash can for the world is so unpatriotic it makes me furious. And I will always be an American before I am a Republican. That's why this week I am voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz." Schwarzenegger went on to criticize Trump for January the 6th, his divisiveness, and the inability to pass policies other than a tax cut. Meanwhile, Latin artist Nicky Jam, who stood on stage with Trump just 1 month ago, withdrew his endorsement, telling his over 40 million Instagram followers that he had thought Trump would be good for the economy, but now can't look past the disrespect that has been shown toward Puerto Rico.
And let's not forget as well that Trump did pick up a major endorsement from American legend and former astronaut Buzz Aldrin. He said that the presidency requires someone to, quote, lead with resolve, and praised Trump for putting together the Space Force program. All right, so a lot to break down here, of course. Let's start with the garbage truck.
Sure.
This is a classic Trump move through and through, obviously, just like the McDonald's stunt that he pulled a couple of weeks ago, which was simultaneously him doing his retail politics shtick, which I think he's very good at, indisputably, and also trying to raise attention to the sort of questions over Kamala Harris's resume and whether or not she actually worked at McDonald's. Now he takes Biden's garbage comments and shows up in a garbage truck in a safety vest. Look, I think it's brilliant.
So I have two separate views of it. On one hand, I think that Trump is great at stunts, right? He would be great in a different parallel life as like a TV programmer or just as a showman. Yeah. He understands how to get eyeballs. He understands how to create compelling images. He understands how to drive the news cycle far more effectively than not only Kamala Harris, but more conventional politicians, generally speaking. My issue with it is, in talking about that, I don't mean you and I, but people generally tend to suggest that that is something that recommends someone to be president of the United States, right? Which is just a completely different skill set. Now, we'll get on later in the show to some things Trump has said and whether there's a lack of seriousness around them. My point isn't, oh, it was bad for him to do that thing in the garbage truck. I thought it was a very good political move to do it. I just think that people go from there to, isn't he a brilliant politician, or should we elect him now as president? Not really, on the basis that he can do good stunts, you know?
No, I agree. I mean, those two things are not necessarily connected. But I do think that when you have the other side calling him a fascist, and you have Hillary Clinton comparing the Madison Square Garden rally to the 1939 Nazi rally, and there's a lot of really heavy rhetoric thrown in both directions, that it's helpful for him to humanize himself in a way. And Jason Miller, his campaign advisor, said in an interview with Politico recently that was the purpose of these moves, was to try to show people that Trump is just a normal guy. He's not this scary monster that some of his political opponents have painted him out to be, and he can just talk with normal people and relate to them and show respect to them. And they also want to set up this dichotomy where they want to give the perception that Trump attacks political opponents, maybe rhetorically and in other ways, but doesn't attack the voters. And they want to give the perception that the problem with the Democrats is that they look down on the voters.
That is definitely a problem for Democrats, and one of the reasons why Biden's garbage comment, I think, was so damaging is that it plays into that narrative that Democrats sneer at conservatives generally, beyond politicians who they're opposed to and to the actual voters. That's why there was the real damage. On the point of how people attack Trump and humanizing him and all of that, I thought the 1939 attack was ridiculous. Lots of people have rallies in Madison Square Garden. The Democrats had their convention there when Bill Clinton was nominated. To say, well, Nazis once had a rally there, I just don't think it is a plausible thing. On the humanizing issue versus what I consider Trump's authoritarian-leaning tendencies, here's what I would say, and bear with me because you'll think it's kind of hyperbolic or whatever, but there is a tendency for autocratic people beyond the United States to sort of present themselves in amusing or quasi-buffoonish ways as a way to actually not humanize them, but take the softness, suggest that there's a softness that isn't actually there. It's the Idi Amin King of Scotland thing, or Muammar Gaddafi with his troop of female bodyguards. Novelties that are used to obscure the actual intent the person has. I am not saying Trump is Gaddafi or Idi Amin, but I don't think that really it is just a matter of humanizing. I think it's a matter of distraction.
I guess the question is that the only comparison that can be made with these political moves? And when we look at people like Michael Dukakis, who has the infamous tank moment, right? It's not. Politicians do this a lot, and it is to show that they are a real person, because voters want to feel like they are putting someone in who understands them and their struggles. And with Trump in particular, one of his biggest strengths has been being the outsider, being the non-politician. And so showing up in these ways in the garbage truck, at McDonald's, he did a couple of these stunts in his first campaign. His supporters love the memes from the White House where he's putting candy on the minion's head or yelling at the kid who's mowing the lawn. I think that these are more in line with, he's not just a billionaire. He's interacting with the people. He cares about the people. Do
you honestly think he does? I mean, this is a genuine question. Do you think he does care about the people?
I actually do.
Do you?
Yeah, I've interviewed him a couple of times. I know a lot of people who have worked for him, and outside of the ones who get paid to go on MSNBC and say bad things, they have a lot of respect for him, and they say he's exactly the same behind the scenes as he is in public.
Well, if that's their testimony, that's their testimony. I just worry that it's a kind of billionaire conning people into thinking he cares about them when in fact he doesn't.
Yeah, it could be, and unfortunately we can't. I wish we could just get into his brain and find out. But
absolutely. Briefly, before we wrap this segment up, Amber, do you think these various endorsements, Schwarzenegger for Harris, Buzz Aldrin for Trump, do you think those have any effect?
No.
No, neither do I.
Okay, good.
If we find a point of agreement.
There we go. There you have it. We agree on endorsements. We have a lot more topics to cover on Rising today. Please stick around.